Is it unusual for you to make happy work?
No. I transform nasty work into good work. I transform hate into love. That's what makes me tick.
I met Louise first in the early 1980s, and I found her extremely intimidating. I hadn't expected this tiny, ferociously intelligent woman who rubbished most of my questions because they were seriously not very well thought through or articulate, and really that set the tone for our relationship. On my side, total admiration, but as a person, I, having met her on many occasions, was never absolutely comfortable in her presence.
Do you think of your towers, this piece, as, or the three of them, in some way like your early personage figures, as having a...
No, they are very simple. The three personages are the father, the mother, and the child. Right.
Which is the father?
I don't care. I'm the child.
You're the child.
I'm the child.
Louise was extremely intelligent, and emotionally she could be like a baby. I mean, she had these polarities coexisting. She was very anxious, and she was one of these people, when she had anxiety, she could either make work or she could attack. So she was very volatile. Art really did keep her sanity and her balance, because she could oscillate between extremes.
The fate of the work is really to be destroyed. It is really what I want. I want to do the things and express my rage by breaking it. You understand that my dealer doesn't like that. And Jerry doesn't like that. Jerry works like a horse all day.
Louise was very clear about why she was doing the things that she did in terms of her art. She would transfer her emotional states into the material. You know, she had a lot of aggression, a lot of frustration, and so she took the materials as a resistance that she was struggling against, and to cut something or to chip away at it or to separate it. And I think that was her need to express on the outside what she was feeling internally.
This is the mistress showing off all in white. She was introduced in the family as a teacher. She slept with my father and she lived in the house. She was there for 10 years. The motivation for the work is a negative reaction against her. It shows that it is really the anger that makes me work.
What I think is interesting about Louise Bourgeois is that she had this very sort of traumatic and vivid childhood. There is trauma there. And I think Bourgeois realised early on that she needed that trauma, that she fed off it, and that she needed to wake up every day with trauma and those memories. And you know, some of her best works came out of addressing very fundamental traumas and sadnesses in her life.
Louise was very depressed after the death of her father, and she began analysis. She did have a very difficult relationship with him, but it's quite obvious from her writings during the psychoanalytic period that she was really in love with him. And so a lot of her expression was really her frustration in a way. They were very close. We could say with Louise's work, if the early work really was dealing with the identification with the father and maybe the aggression towards him and her frustration, the late work is really an identification with the mother, who was a sewer and a tapestry worker. I think she made a shift in the work where the last 15 years of her life, she really never referred to her father at all. It was really about the mother.
The spiders are interesting in Bourgeois. The first spider appears in a drawing in, I think, 1947. She also wrote about a spider on many occasions and talked about her mother being like a spider. You know, multiple ideas about spiders. They're weavers, they're makers, they're protectors, and people are scared of them. So there's an ambivalence between good and bad, strong and weak, safe and dangerous.
She really didn't make sculptures of spiders into the mid-90s. And it was an ode to her mother. You know, she just saw the spider as benevolent, but it was also the idea that the spider was really a weaver and that would build this architecture out of its own body the same way she did. So it's a connection to her mother, but it's also a connection to her own artistic process.
The themes that come out of Louise's work are themes to do with life and loving and living and suffering and dying, and they are profoundly human emotions, and a continuous iteration Louise is writing, and many of her titles is I do, I undo, I redo. So there's this idea that through life we make things, we unmake them, we remake them. Bourgeois' whole life was about trying, failing, and doing it again.
Art was a form of sublimation. It was also, it gave her access in a way to sort of a hidden reality of who she really was. It's an emotional record in a way that she's given form to, and there are things that she cannot say. I think Louise lived in a visual world.
The artist has the privilege of being in touch with his or her unconscious, and this is really a gift. It is the definition of sanity. It is the definition of self-realization, right?
She described herself as a guerrilla fighter, and that image has stuck with me. There was so much she fought against, from early childhood, through adulthood, through middle age, you know, moving to America, having to fight her way as a woman.
Making art saved her life in a strange way. It sort of, you know, was a form of therapy, and so she was lucky that she found something that she needed to do that was also, you know, life-saving. What she was, what she believed in, and what she felt in the work is totally unified. I think that's the brilliance, really, of what she produced. I mean, there is no real separation.